So the synopsis that we start today is for the topic morphology of higher plants. And morphology of higher plants over here means we are talking about morphology of angiosperms. As you all know, angiosperms are those plants in which the seeds are enclosed inside the fruits. So such fruit-bearing, seed-bearing plants are called as angiosperms. And morphology is that branch of biology that deals with the study of the external structure of the living organisms, where morphos is the external form, logy is the study. So the study of external forms is called morphology. So when we look at a typical angiospermic plant, so what do we see there? We see the presence of a root system and a shoot system. Okay, like below the soil part is called as the root system. That is what I circle right now. And above the soil part is called as the shoot system. यहाँ पे मैं word add करूँगा usually. So usually beneath the soil is the root system and usually beneath the soil is the shoot system. As we go further, we'll come to note exactly technically how to define a root and how to define a shoot. But in generally, you will find that a typical root system shows the presence of a primary root from which arises secondary roots, and from the secondary roots can arise more roots, which will be called as the tertiary roots. So the root system is quite homogeneous. Homogeneous means it is made of the same type of parts. That is why it is called homogeneous. इसके पास सिर्फ रूट्स और रूट्स ही है, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं. Then the shoot system is quite heterogeneous. Okay, where it is made up of different types of parts. So if you look at the shoot system and the diagram in front of you, you will see that it shows the presence of the main stem. From the stem arises the leaf. It shows the presence of flowers and it shows the presence of fruits. The place where the leaf is attached to the stem is called as a node. Now, I have got two nodes. And the distance between the two nodes is called as an internode. Okay, so if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes, the number of internodes will be 3. It will be n minus 1. N minus 1 will be the number of internodes. So the internodes will be always 1 less than the number of nodes. Okay, so that would be the typical classification of a root system and a shoot system. But how does the plant begin its life? The plant begins its life in the form of a seed. So here we see the presence of a seed. Now then, as you observe that a typical seed will show the presence of the, I call it as the baby plant, the baby plant. Okay, ये seed के अंदर होता है. It is present inside the seed. And this baby plant, as you know from our lectures, it is called as the embryo. This is the embryo axis. These are the two cotyledons. Their point of attachment is called as the cotyledonary node. उसके ऊपर का जो रीजन है, it is called epicotyl. उसके नीचे का जो, उसके मतलब cotyledonary node, cotyledon के attachments के नीचे का जो रीजन है, it is called as the hypocotyl. The tip of the epicotyl is called as the plumule, and the tip of the hypocotyl is called as the radicle. And the radicle results in the formation of the root system, and the plumule results in the formation of the shoot system. The radicle will result in the formation of the root system, and the plumule will result in the formation of the shoot system. Okay, In the diagram in front of you, that is there as of now, here you'll see that the cotyledons have come above the soil. Okay, the cotyledons have come above the soil. So such a germination of seed is called epigeal germination. Epigeal germination, where the cotyledons are raised above the soil surface. Okay, so that is what we come to know, that the root system uh, develops from the radicle and the shoot system develops from the premium. Now, when we talk about the root systems, the root systems are classified as a taproot system, adventitious root system, and a fibrous root system. So, what's a taproot system? Taproot system is a root system which develops directly from the radicle. Right now, I showed you the radicle. When the radical develops directly into the root, then such a root system is called as a taproot system. And the taproot system shows the presence of the main root, that is the primary root, followed by the lateral, that is the secondary and the tertiary roots. Okay. Now see, other than that, the radical has resulted in the formation of a primary root, and the plumule has resulted in the formation of the initial stem. But this primary root is short-lived. It dies very quickly. So this primary root is short, jaldi mar jata hai. So this primary root is replaced by thin fibers which arise from the base of the stem. How are they? They are thin fibers arising from the base of the stem. So such a root is called as a fibrous root, and such a fibrous root is seen in monocots like wheat. The other type is when we say that the root is adventitious. Adventitious word has a specific meaning in biology. It means other than the standard. What is the standard position from where the root arises? It is the radical. Okay. But if now the roots is derived from places other than the radical, it will be called as an adventitious root. इसका मतलब अगर एक लीफ है जिसको मैं बोलता हूँ पान फुटी, उसके पत्तों में से अगर रूट्स आ रहे हैं तो ये रूट्स भी क्या हो गया है, एडवेंटिशियस. कोई वीक स्टेम है उसमें से अगर रूट्स आ गया तो वो क्या है, एडवेंटिशियस. ओके. एक बैंयन ट्री है, उसके ब्रांचेस में से रूट्स आ गए तो मैं उसको क्या कहूंगा, एडवेंटिशियस, बिकॉज दे आर कमिंग फ्रॉम प्लेसेस other than the standard position. And as you know, the standard position I mentioned to you is the radical. So such a root is called as a adventitious root. Okay. So now we have got the types. That is the taproot, which is mostly found in dicots. Example is mustard. Then adventitious roots, they're found in many monocots as well as some dicots. So sugarcane, monstera, grasses, sugarcane, monstera, grasses. These are examples of those monocots which have adventitious roots. Some dicots, like just I mentioned, banyan tree has adventitious root system. So what are the functions of a typical root? One that we all know, its main function is absorption of water and minerals. It provides anchorage. It helps the plant to get attached to the soil. That is called anchorage. खाने को store करता है, reserves food, and also produces plant growth regulators, which are called hormones. Hormones like auxins. Okay, they can be produced by these typical roots. So as I just mentioned, the word, that is typical root. Okay, और ये जो word है typical root, we are going to use this at many different places. Okay, in this particular chapter, morphology of flowering plants. Now, when I say typical, what does the word typical mean? Typical means that this particular feature is going to be shown by most of the examples that we follow. Okay, कि ये जो है, like we say, what is the characteristic feature of a typical Indian father? So he'll be hardworking, caring, he'll be possessive. Okay, ये टिपिकल फीचर है. इसके अलावा भी फीचर्स होते हैं, लेकिन ये टिपिकली इंडियन डैडी में पाए जाएंगे ऐसा. तो ये जो हम रूट का बात कर रहे हैं, ये टिपिकल रूट है. और ये टिपिकल रूट जो होगा, उसके पास ये फीचर्स दिखाई देंगे. तो सबसे पहले, एज यू ऑलरेडी स्टडीड इन द लेक्चर्स, that the typical root is divided into the following regions. It is the region of meristematic activity. Acha, one more thing. We are going from the morphological apex towards the morphological base. Okay. So this part is the morphological apex. And the most apical region is the meristematic region. And this meristematic region is protected by a thimble-like structure. Look at this structure. This is called a thimble-like structure. Okay? जैसे अब आप जब सीविंग करते हो, तो वो जो नीडल है आपको चुभे ना, इसलिए आप वो थिम्बल पहनते हो. Okay? So it protects the tender region, young region of the region of meristematic activity. तो रूट क्या उसको क्या करता है? प्रोटेक्ट करता है. क्योंकि यहाँ के जो सेल्स होते हैं, they are very small, thin walled, gadah cytoplasm, keep on undergoing cell division repetitively. Okay, proximal to this region, उसके नजदीक, you have got a region of elongation, where the cells will gradually differentiate and mature. But before that, they will undergo elongation. The length of the cells will increase. As a result of it, the length of the root will also increase. Proximal to it is the region of maturation. And in the region of maturation, why do we call it as a mature region? Because here you will see the best differentiation of tissues. अगर इस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में मैं रूट को कट करता हूं, तो बाहर से अंदर मुझे होमोजीनियस एक ही टाइप का टिश्यू नहीं मिलेगा, मुझे अलग अलग टाइप के टिश्यूज मिलेंगे. कि जैसे अगर मैं यहाँ पे कट करता हूं और माइक्रोस्कोप के नीचे देखता हूं, तो फ्रॉम आउटसाइड टू इनसाइड मुझे अलग अलग लेयर्स दिखेंगे. एपिडर्मिस, कॉर्टेक्स, एंडोडर्मिस, पेरिसाइकल, जाइलम, फ्लोएम, ऐसा डिफरेंशिएशन आ जाएगा. इसके डिटेल्स हम पढ़ते हैं एनाटॉमी में. सो हियर that is what is called as the region of maturation. And the region of maturation shows a very important thing, which helps in water absorption, right? These are the root hairs. These are very fine and delicate thread-like structures, which helps in the absorptions of water and minerals. Okay. Now, going further about the typical root, followed by what are the different modifications of a typical root system. Okay, that ये जो हम लोगों ने फंक्शंस किए यहाँ पे, ओके, कि एक टिपिकल रूट के फंक्शंस क्या है. तो एक टिपिकल रूट के फंक्शंस ये है कि वो वाटर एंड मिनरल्स एब्जॉर्ब करने में हेल्प करता है, प्रॉपर एंकरेज टू द प्लांट देता है, स्टोर रिजर्व फूड करता है, और प्लांट ग्रोथ रेगुलेटर्स वगैरह भी बनाने में हेल्प करता है. लेकिन इसके अलावा हम नेचर में फाइंड करते हैं कि द रूट्स अंडरगो मॉडिफिकेशंस, and these modifications are done in order to perform special functions. तो अगर मैं बात करूं कि there is a taproot. Like just now we saw that the taproot shows the presence of a primary root, secondary root, and a tertiary root, and it develops from the part which is called as the radicle. Correct. So the taproot can get modified for food storage. Okay. Similarly, the taproot can also get modification for gaseous exchange. And it can get modified for nitrogen fixation. So why does the taproot get modified for food storage? वो जो प्राइमरी रूट है वो खाने को स्टोर करता है. ओके. जब भी कंडीशंस फेवरेबल होती है, रेट ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस ज्यादा होता है. So now the primary root will store a lot of food. As the primary root will store a lot of food and the conditions become unfavorable, पूरा प्लांट मर जाएगा. तो सॉइल के ऊपर पूरा प्लांट मर गया, लेकिन नीचे रूट है जिसके पास अभी भी वो खाना स्टोर है. ओके. सो जितना टाइम अनफेवरेबल कंडीशंस रहेंगे, ये स्टोर्ड फूड के साथ रूट नीचे जिंदा रहेगा. इसको बोलते हैं पेरिनेशन. पेरिनेशन. अब जैसी फेवरेबल कंडीशंस वापस आ जाएंगे, वो फिर से नया पेड़ बन. इसको बोलते हैं वेजिटेटिव प्रोपोगेशन. तो रूट्स हैं, स्टेम्स हैं, ये लोग क्यों खाने को स्टोर करते हैं? इन ऑर्डर फॉर पेरिनेशन एंड वेजिटेटिव प्रोपोगेशन. ये हमको बात समझती है. ओके. नाउ फॉर फूड स्टोरेज, अब ये प्राइमरी रूट कैसा शेप लेता है? अगर शेप ऐसा है, ग्रेजुअली टेपर होता है, then it is called as a conical root. An example of a conical root is a Dacus carota, मतलब तुम्हारा कैरेट डरोने. If it is spindle shape, fusiform, it is Raphanus sativa, that is your radish. If it is swollen at the base and suddenly tapers, it is napiform, that is beetroot, Beta vulgaris. If it is irregular in shape, then it is called as a tuber of Mirabilis jalapa, जिसको 4 o'clock plant भी कहा जाता है. So that is what happens when it is being modified for food storage. Other than that, if the modification is for gaseous exchange, then this modification is seen in plants which are called halophytes. Okay, halophytes are those plants which grow in salty, marshy conditions. So जो plants salty, marshy conditions में grow होते हैं, ऐसे plants को हम कहते हैं halophytes. Now, ऐसे salty, marshy conditions में बच्चों ये समझो salty, marshy conditions है, ऑक्सीजन कम होता है, तो ये जो नॉर्मल उनके रूट्स है वो गैशियस एक्सचेंज में तकलीफ होती है. So some roots will grow positively phototropic, like conical spikes, having openings which are called lenticels. And with the help of these lenticels, they will do gaseous exchange. इसके एग्जाम्पल में आता है मैंग्रोव्स. कॉमन नेम है इनका सुंदरी. मैंग्रोव्स के ग्रुप का नाम है राइजोपोरा. So we can remember this. This is how it is going to help in the process of gaseous exchange. So coming to nitrogen fixation, that the nitrogen fixation, this is seen commonly in plants which are called legumes, leguminosae. These legumes, they show the presence of a taproot with nodules. And these nodules are nitrogen fixing bacteria. So that helps in nitrogen fixation. So this is a quick recap of the modifications of our taproot for different functions. Okay. Now there is one more type of root, which is called as the adventitious root. Now even the adventitious root can get modified. Like an adventitious root system can get modified for food storage or for mechanical support, as well as it can get modified to perform special functions. So I just have told you, okay, why do they get modified for food storage? They get modified for food storage in order for pollination and vegetative propagation. So if you need to do some examples, like a simple tuber of Ipomia batatas, that is your sweet potato, and a fasciculated tuber like that of asparagus. So here, let us see how this modification occurs. यहाँ पे एक वीक स्टेम है, एडवेंटिशियस रूट्स है, favorable conditions है, the food got stored in these adventitious roots, giving it an irregular shape. So that is called as a tuber. Singly, एक. So that is called as a simple root tuber of sweet potato, Ipomia batatas. Asparagus में वही ऐसे गुच्छे में होता है, तो उसको बोलते हैं fasciculated. If these are like these rings, that will be called annulated. If only the tip is getting modified, it will be called nodulose. Okay, ऐसे अलग अलग modifications हो सकते हैं. Then for support. So when we say support over here, what I mean by support is the mechanical support we are talking about. So support here means mechanical support. So for the mechanical support, we can remember the first, which is called the prop root of Ficus bengalensis. Okay, the banyan tree, where we see that the tree has got a huge canopy, and to support that huge canopy, many roots adventitious, because not they are not now arising from the radicle, they are arising from the stem. They come down as props, as pillars to support the stem. So these are called the prop roots of banyan tree. Another good example or a type first is called stilt roots. ये एक शुगर केन की स्टेम है, उसके पास अपना एक एडवेंटिशियस रूट सिस्टम है, लेकिन अभी ये स्टेम को सपोर्ट करने के लिए लोअर नोड्स में से इन वर्ल्स, वर्ल्स मतलब ये स्टेम है, इधर 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 इन वर्ल्स roots can arise. So these are called stilt root in whorls. At the same time, you have some plants like Keoda, Pandanus, जिसको हम कहते हैं, इसकी जो stem है देखो थोड़ी सी tilt की हुई. So you will see the presence of stilt roots arising from the sides. So prop roots, stilt roots in sugarcane, wheat, bajra, stilt roots coming out obliquely in Pandanus are for what? Support. Also, for support, you can see the climbing roots of pothos, money plant, piper nigrum, and piper beetle, काली मिर्च है beetle. जहां पे समझो कोई एक ऐसा सपोर्ट है. So these roots are sensitive to touch. As soon as they touch, they coil over it and they give support. Okay, not this big. It's like in the case of money plant, you have these small roots, they come out and they coil over. So these are called the climbing roots. The third type that we have mentioned, right, is for special functions. So what are these special functions, dear students? The special function example can include epiphytic roots. Okay, these epiphytic roots are those where the plant is an epiphyte. Epiphyte वो पेड़ होता है जो दूसरे पेड़ के ऊपर ग्रो होता है. उसका फायदा उसको ये है कि उसको हर्बीवोर्स से क्या मिलेगा? प्रोटेक्शन मिलेगा. तो समझो ये ऑर्किड है, वैंडा डेंड्रोबियम, वैंडा डेंड्रोबियम, ऐसे कुछ प्लांट्स है. Here what is green leaves, they can do their own photosynthesis. मतलब ये पैरासिटिज्म नहीं है, उसके ऊपर डिपेंडेंट नहीं है खाने पीने के लिए. बट उसके रूट्स जो होंगे से हैंगिंग हो, इसके अंदर एक टिश्यू होगा वेलामिन नाम का, जो हाइग्रोस्कोपिक होगा, जो सबको रिटेन करेगा और एटमॉस्फेयर में से मॉइस्चर वगैरह को वो एब्सॉर्ब करेगा. तो ये तो हैंगिंग रूट्स हो गए. मॉइस्चर एब्सॉर्ब करे एयर में से, सॉइल की भी बात नहीं हो रही है, तो डेफिनेटली कौन सा फंक्शन हो गया? स्पेशल फंक्शन हो गया. नाउ another special function is when you see parasitic roots. Sure. Parasitism is a condition where one organism derives nutrition from the other organism as well as stays with that organism. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है पैरासिटिज्म में? फ्री लॉजिंग रहना, फ्री फूड मिलता है. इसलिए आप देखो कि अमेजिंग बात यह है कि सारे किंगडम्स में पैरासिटिज्म मिलता है. हालांकि किंगडम प्लांट इज autotrophic, they can prepare their own food, but which plant will not like to have free food and feed, free shelter. They will always. So parasitism is also found in kingdom plantae, in many plants. तो वो time पे the root has to be modified to perform a special function, and that special function is of a hostoria. Imagine hostoria to be like a tube which can pierce दूसरे का stem and suck nutrient out of it. जैसे कि इंजेक्शन है, सिरिंज नीडल है, तो गया अंदर एंड यू ड्रॉ ब्लड आउट. तो वैसे ही ये हॉस्टोरिया, जैसे कि अगर कोई स्टेम है टीएस में, ये उसका जाइलेम है और ये उसका फ्लोएम है, और ये टीएस है उस पैरासाइट का, और ये जो ग्रीन में मैं बना रहा हूँ वो हॉस्टेरिया है, हॉस्टोरिया. दे कैन रीच द जाइलेम एंड द फ्लोएम and derive nutrition for this plant. So we'll say that's a total parasite which has reached xylem as well as phloem. Example is dendrobium, जिसको हम लोग हिंदी में अमरवेल कहते हैं. कुछ कुछ पार्शियल पैरासाइट्स भी होते हैं जहाँ पे हॉस्टोरिया ओनली रीच द xylem, वो लोग खुद का खाना बना लेते, बट दे आर डिपेंडेंट ओनली फॉर वाटर. विस्कम अल्बम नाम का एक पेड़ है which is a partial parasite. It is dependent only for water, not for food. So amazingly, we see that other than these four functions that we have mentioned, the root also ends up doing many more functions by undergoing different modifications.